Well, this leads us to display, because what do you know? How do you know that you're going to display content for people? Well, the trick is sometimes you have some fixed content, sometimes you have some variable content, sometimes you have some content that you don't control, and sometimes you do. Let's look through that and start with River of News. So River of News is really just the latest things that are happening in the organization unfiltered. Now, this causes some corporate communicators to have heart palpitations because they're thinking, hey, I need to control what's on my intranet homepage. And as you'll see here in a minute, there are places on even internet portal pages which are largely uncontrolled. So we'll talk about controlled delivery here in a second, but for now, think about this as a way to make your website, your intranet, be alive. People don't want to go back to someplace if it never seems to change. They want it to feel like it's got a little bit of energy to it. And so creating a space somewhere on the page for news is a great thing. It's typically news sort of descending order, and it's only the last 10 or 20 of them. Okay, controlled delivery, and there are two types of controlled delivery that we'll be talking about, but the idea is that this is persistent news. This is news that we want to highlight to stick around. We want it to stay in people's faces for a couple of days so that they'll remember to do something like, subscribe to the open enrollment, get their new benefits worked out. It is the way to make sure that some message is seen, and it is important if you're trying to eliminate or reduce the amount of email because you want people to have to see stuff. The first idea is a rotating banner or carousel, and it allows more content to exist in the same space. So one story is swapped out and replaced with another is replaced with another. You see these all the time on both intranets and internet sites. The great thing about a carousel or rotating banner is that it provides elasticity for content. You can have one story in there, you can have 20 stories in there. Okay, maybe not 20, but you can have 1 to 5, and you'll have some content there for people to see, and you don't have to worry about overflowing a little buffer. Fixed positions is another way to do controlled content delivery. That is basically, hey, this has to exist in this spot. And that fixed positioning works really well, except it's hard to manage when you're doing targeting because you have to figure out, I need to make sure something shows up there, but I don't necessarily want 2 things there because 2 things, the second thing won't show. So it has a level of rigidity to it that is bad. But the good thing is they'll always see this thing. In a banner, you don't know for certain that they're going to see article number 3 or article number 5 because it's just going to rotate. Okay, so this is a very old picture of the MSN homepage. And it is annotated so that you can see that at the top, they're using a rotating banner or a carousel. And the bottom, you'll see they're doing fixed positioning. And then on the right, you'll see things like top movers and popular pages. That's actually River of News sort of thing. It's all dynamically generated and not being controlled. So if somebody, you take the top story there includes 2 drunk, right? Tanning mom, 2 drunk. I don't know what that story was, but that may not be the thing that you want to throw up on a homepage of your intranet, except here it is on the internet because it happened to be the story that was the most interesting. So 2 things left in this module, and the first is a content ad. And here we're looking at how do we get content to be visible, to be persistent, to be shown, but not be just on the homepage. The problem that we have is that the homepage, people all want their space on it. Like every department, every group, everybody wants space on the homepage. And I describe that as like trying to carve a live cow. They don't care how the cow ends up. They just want their piece of meat. Now, that's not very nice, but we're trying to figure out ways to get them off the homepage. If I gave them a content ad, or think of it maybe like a public service announcement, and they could do benefits, open enrollment sign up, but they didn't have to do it on the main page. Every time there was an article page or something, there was an ad that said, hey, have you done your sign up? That is a way to get stuff off the main page, but also get people to say, oh yeah, it's okay for me not to be on the main page if I'm going to show up everywhere throughout the site. Okay, our last thing is just talking about page layouts. Most of the time when folks are trying to do displays, it's like, hey, I don't want to do a design comp. I don't want to, really mock the screen up because it's too much time or whatever. You can start with wireframes, just quickly drawing some boxes and labeling what's going to go in them. And that'll help you minimize the amount of carving up the page you're doing. Help people to understand, I can put all kinds of news into this box, right? I don't have to show you what news is in there. I can just do one big box for all news. I don't have to do news by department. We do still pay attention to what's called the page fold, and that is where someone's screen, where their window will show. Everything that's on the top is called above the page fold. It's an old newspaper reference. And we're trying to make sure that the stuff that's most important, the stuff that they have to see, stays above the page fold. The last little thing about designing a page layout for your intranet or how you communicate is don't forget about the fact that we have to fight this information overload problem. If you make your page too busy, it will be difficult for people to process the page. So with that, that's targeting and display. Let's get ready and go to the next module.